Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to answer the question, how deep should I squat? So the first and easiest way to answer this question is, are you a powerlifter or do you want to compete in powerlifting in the near future? If that's the case, then all we need for you to do is get your hip crease below the top of your knee. If you currently squat deeper than this, you're going to find this probably most likely by squatting with a bit more control in order to find the correct depth. What you're going to have to get away from doing is just slumping as low as you can until you're as deep as you can go. If you currently squat too deep for powerlifting purposes, in order for you to find the correct depth, it's going to feel like you're squatting too high. And because that is the case as a contrast of squatting super deep versus powerlifting depth. If you do want to compete in powerlifting sometime soon, it's important to iron out this kink fairly early on because we don't want to have this habit as we get under heavier loads. If we squat too deep in training and sometimes we squat to correct depth, we're kind of rolling the dice on how deep we're going to end up squatting under heavy loads where we don't have the time to think and we just kind of revert to whatever our habit is. So if you are a powerlifter, that doesn't mean you should never squat below this depth. This is just the depth you should use, obviously, in the lead up to a competition. You can use a deeper squat for movement variability and hypertrophy. This might be something you use early in the off season when you're not competing anytime soon, or it can be used as an accessory movement for more hypertrophy purposes within a strength block. What this might look like is day 1 squats, we have 3 sets of 5 reps low bar squats. Then on day 3, we have 3 sets of 4 reps pause squats. And then as the C exercise on that day, we have belt squats done with the closest stance to full depth. This allows us to still build the strength and specificity for powerlifting whilst also getting hypertrophy stimulus from a deeper squat. So the next approach to how deep should you squat is to get the most bang for your buck from a hypertrophy standpoint. When we're looking to grow muscle, all we're looking to do is to progressively place more tension on the target muscles over time. There are many ways we can go about this. There's no one approach or one exercise that is vital for us to achieve this, except doing low bar squats for hypertrophy. If you're looking to get the most bang for your buck from squats for hypertrophy purposes, squatting ass to grass is the way to go. When we go below powerlifting depth, so getting like well below parallel, we obviously are working our quads, but this is where we start to get our glutes and adductors working a bit more so as well. Now, I've said ass to grass, but that's going to look a bit different from person to person. If someone is really built for squatting deep really well, they're going to be able to get their hamstrings to be touching their calves. If they can do this, that's great, and we should all try to get somewhat close to this, but not everyone is going to be able to get there. The key thing is that you're squatting as deep as you can go. Now, there are a few things that will help you improve your ability to squat really deep. These are heel elevation, anterior load, and dropping the weight on the bar. Elevating our heels stops ankle mobility from being a limiting factor and allows us to get a bit deeper. We can elevate our heels rather using squat shoes, placing plates under our feet, or using a heel wedge. The second thing we can do to allow ourselves to get more deeper is using an anterior load. We can do this using a goblet squat, a front squat, an SSB bar, or simply using a machine that forces us to be a bit more upright. The anterior load allows us to keep our ribs and pelvis stacked well, which allows us to have more space for our hips to descend. The key thing with anterior load and heel elevation is they give us the option to squat deeper, but they don't magically let us squat deeper straight away. We still have to actively try to squat deeper. You're not just going to elevate your heels and use an anterior load and squat deep. It's still up to you to use these tools. The third and probably most important factor that's going to help you to squat deeper is simply dropping the weight on the bar. If you're a powerlifter or strength enthusiast, obviously you're quite attached emotionally to the weight on the bar. But when hypertrophy is the goal, it is tension, not kilos, that we're looking for. If you keep in mind the weights you've done for low bar squats for 5 reps to competition depth, this is going to be heaps more than what you can do for an SSB squat done for 8 to 10 reps to full depth with a heel elevation as well. If you think you can't squat deep or you think you're not built for squatting deep, it might just be that you're using a weight that doesn't allow you to squat deep. So strip the weight off, remove the ego, and keep the goal in mind. If hypertrophy is the goal, kilos aren't the answer. Tension is the answer. As an aside factor, this won't directly cause you to grow more muscle, but I think it's an important point to make here. Squatting ass to grass is just really fucking hard. It'll test you like nothing else in the gym. If you can squat all the way down over multiple blocks, really, really deep, really hard sets, high reps, it'll build a certain mental fortitude that nothing else in the gym will. When you then return to other training, it'll feel way easier by contrast. So it's not directly gonna cause you to build muscle, but just having a bit more mongrel about you is never a bad thing. So in current debates around hypertrophy, there are generally two camps people fall into: Team Full ROM and Team Active ROM. Team Full ROM believes that more range of motion is pretty much always better. They try to get the most bang for their buck out of each exercise and take their joints through great ranges of motion. They'd agree with me with the previous point I talked about of getting deep squats for the best bang for your buck. The other side of the coin, Team Active ROM, focuses more so on taking muscles through their active range and probably focuses a bit more on targeting specific muscles at a time rather than getting good bang for your buck. Now, I don't think either approach is right or wrong. Both sides have some merit. This next point I'm going to make is going to be more so in line with the Team Active ROM. So just for further clarification, Team Full ROM, as an example to explain the difference between their approaches, Team Full ROM would do a lat pull down with complete range of motion, shrugging their shoulders up at the top, bringing the bar down as far as they can, whereas Team Active ROM might do more like a one arm pull down, focusing just on shoulder extension to specifically target the lat. So I talked before how squatting below parallel gets us using our adductors and glutes more. If we want to squat in a way that biases the quads more, we probably don't want to go ass to grass. It's not that squatting ass to grass won't hit our quads, but it's not a squat that specifically kind of biases quad tension. So we may want to squat in a way that biases quad tension if our quads are a weak point that we want to bring up a bit more, or if our glutes and adductors already get enough love in other parts of our program. So we're going to run through the two squatting options we've talked about. So with option 2, we had just the ass to grass squat, sitting all the way down. It's pretty straightforward, doesn't require a lot of explanation, going as low as we can, bit of hip action, bit of knee action. Now option 2, we have the more quad bias squat. So we might even bring our stance in a little bit, and instead of sitting straight down, Bulls is going to focus just on getting his knees forward. That's all he's going to emphasize. He might not get as deep with this variation, but that's okay because we're doing it in a way that's going to bias more tension through the quad. So his knees are getting heaps forward, not sitting as low, but that's the goal with this one. So in summary, to answer how deep should I squat, we had 3 answers. 1, are you a power lifter? Hip crease below the top of the knee. If you're preparing for competition, we can also squat deeper as a power lifter as a secondary movement. Option 2, hypertrophy, best bang for your buck, ass to grass. Option 3, trying to have a squat that's a bit more quad focused, just get them knees forward and keep them forward the whole time. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you liked the video, chuck us a like, subscribe, comment down below. Other than that, happy lifting. Also, if you're from overseas, can you comment down below? Because I just had a chat with a guy from Vienna who's been watching our stuff for 2 years, which I thought was pretty cool. So if you're internationals, let us know. We'll give you a shout out.